it's Teresa here. Welcome to a Sewing Tuesday. Today we are going to mass make tags, and I'm going to show you some of my tips and tricks of what I do. And especially when sewing, I'm going to show you how to save time when sewing and thread. So let's get crafting. Okay, things you are going to need. You're going to need your base. So I like to use either folders or cardstock that I am not going to use. There's no way I'm going to use this vibrant, crazy color cardstock in Minecraft. So I put my paper on this and probably put some ink on that side to dull it. So I do this in two ways. The first way, I cut my cardstock down. You're going to need your cutter, obviously. So let's get this. And to start, I just take this little sliver and I go to the very core of what I need, like just there. Here we go. And I cut. And then I take this and throw it away. Let's move you guys up some. There we go. Okay, the next thing I do is I have found I really like mine 2.5 to the width. I like them 2, 2.5, and 3. I will make some that are 4.5 or, but most of the time, those are my ideals. So I will cut that. And then what I do is go to 3. And I do like 3.5 at times, but we're just going to do these 2. And then I like to cut these 3 at 6. And that gives me 2, one larger than the other. And then the 2.5, I cut at 5. And I do save this little piece for a different project. All right. And so with these, if there is an image you want to preserve, like, okay, if there is an image you would like to preserve, like what I did with this Whomping Willow, that is where ones like this would come in handy, because then you can see through it, the paper, and go, right? Or a lot of this, I use my barrier glue. So I am okay. That doesn't totally go to the side or get everything. So what I do is I will put this down. And then I will take my, and this helps squish all of that glue out. And there you go. Or you can glue them all down and mass make, like what I have done here. And then you just cut them out. I like to glue them before I make my little corners. The other way is, let's set these aside. As if you have a big sheet like what I had, and decide which you want. Like some of these have, and I would use my glue again. And put this on down and use my folder, get all of that. Just, there we go. And then you have a, oops, I put it on the wrong side. Oh well. And then you would have these. The third way I do it to prep these is when I cut, this is where I use a glue stick. I love my glue sticks. Okay. Right? And then with these ones, look at all that extra. There we go. So you have all this extra, right? That is where I take one of these. And you can use scrapbook paper. I like the inside because this is all of the extra. So this is where I will take my glue stick and I literally will just slap it down. And then I will take pieces and stick them down. Hope everyone is doing good. Things here are good. I'm filming this the day before, and I have lots of crazy appointments this week. So this might be the only video I get up. I don't know yet, but we will see. So as you can see, I'm slowly building my base, which is how I've made these ones. And as you can see, there are some that overlap. So see how this sticks out? No big deal. I just glue right past it and stick this down. And when I cut them to sew them, if there's a piece sticking up, like say right in here or this little corner, that's where I use my wet glue, my Very Art glue, and I do it that way. So it is pretty easy, and there's something about tearing paper and just slapping it down and making a whole new collage that is fun. With this, I would just stick it up, put some glue right there, and put it down. Okay, so those are the ways that I do this. Now, let me show you my tips and tricks for sewing. Okay, so I'm going to show you two different ways I do this. One is like just a regular, a few, well, actually, I'll show you a few different ways. But first, I'm going to show you why the harder parts of what this is, saving your thread. Okay, so let's get this completely up. So I'm going to put this on a decorative stitch just because I prefer one. And let's go. Okay, this is just a normal way of making your tags. You know, you go around. And a lot of people do one at a time. So you will cut that. You have to hold your thread again. I had a different stitch I didn't like. Okay. I'm going to do this way just to show you guys like what so quilters call what I'm going to be doing chain stitching, right? Which is a good way. Let's do this one more. Now we'll cut all the threads of everything we show you at the end. And of course, this does not have to be perfect. Okay, so we have our few done. We will sew those later. The next step is I'm going to take a few more and we're going to chain stitch like normal. Okay, which would be you do the entire thing. I know these aren't perfect, but you know what? I don't really care. Okay, now that we're at the end, that is where you would take your next piece. You'd lift that up. All right. And you don't have to hold your threads because it's already, you still have that part back there. So you keep going. And look, this is right here, and you would go, let's do one more. But see how they're starting to all cluster together at the same center? That's kind of annoying. And you only could do a few at a time, which really doesn't work. Okay. Turn, go, and see how like it, watch when I go up. See how these are all just kind of collaged together? It kind of gets to a point where you have a hard time figuring out, okay. So there's that way, which works. Now I'm going to show you a different way. And I absolutely love this. It saves on your thread. It saves on your time. So what I do is I go about the same way. I hold my thread to start. I do this little part, right? And I go up the over and then over. And then I sew down this leg. And then I sew this bottom. And then I stop there. I grab my next piece. I lift up my pressure foot. And we don't need that there like that. Okay. And I go. Now here's where the difference is going to look. So you're still sewing. But you don't have a cluster. This stays over here. And when you grab the next one, you just start it. And see how these just kind of stay out. Let's do a couple more. Now, this is the last one we're going to do. Okay, we're going to go down. And now, as you can already see how this was a jumble of a mess? This is not. Look how I'm going to be flipping it around. It's not. So, you are going to lift this and sew it this way. So all of these are going to wind up falling right in front. Okay. And you're going to sew. And then when you get to then, you're going to put this right under there. There's a little spot right there. And go. And if there's, like this is really close, you lift it and go. If you're afraid you're gonna sew over the same thing. Oop, that one went way off the course. We're just gonna go back here and sew again, closer to the wall. And there we go. Okay, so well, now let's play with these. All right, we're gonna do this one last. So these are the ones that we did, and I'm gonna make a pile of the red. If I could find the others. I know I did more than 2. Oh, did they? Wow. Okay. Oh, here's one. And here's one. There we go. Okay, so you're going to take this and snip. These are the ones that we did all separate. And, you know, I'm one of those that wherever I could save money, even if it's a little bit of a thread, then that's what I could save. I mean, look at all of that. That is so much. I'm going to move you down a little bit. And then this, it's just a jumble mess, right? So we're going to take and just carefully trim so we don't trim our and then we're going to trim the last bit. Or you can leave it, but look how big, look at the big difference. If you're one that likes the extra thread, you do the extra thread. You know, you can do that with this way of doing that. So then you just cut. And there is no extra thread. So that is how I mass make and sew and save time. This is a lot faster and a lot less thread usage. So thank you for joining me. I hope this inspires you to make your own mass make tags and easier sewing. So if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. I think of subscribing. That helps me know to make more videos like this. And I will see you next time. Bye.